In my spare time, I like to learn about DJ related equipment and software. In the future, I want to be a biomedical engineer, but a part-time DJ. I mostly like to learn how to make EDM or dubstep by learning Magix or Flash Sound Maker. Also, I would like to know how to make games in the future. For background lesson 1, we created a background and island in Flash for animation that will come later. Character lesson 1. In Flash, we create a boat full of people which will be used in an animation for later. Animation 1. I used keyframe and motion tweaks to create this short animation. In Magix Music Studio, I used Magix to create a music for my videos and other projects. I can use pre-made loops or create my own sound. Photoshop Lesson 1. I learned how to select and to use the curve tool to edit an image. Lesson 1B. I learned to use the text tool in this short lesson. Lesson 1C. This lesson was the introduction to masks and the paintbrush tool. Hand drawn 1. I drew this picture with a pencil and paper, scanned it into my computer, and edited it into Photoshop. Interest collage. I first took pictures of myself and selected a background and 3 different pictures that represented my interests. Then I edited one of the pictures of me in the front and background, and I later added the several pictures around me. Movie poster. I used Photoshop to layer and morph pictures into a movie poster. Cut my face off. I cut my face off. Then changed the masking of it so it has the same skin color as the alien. Then I edited the pictures of me into the RV and made it look like I was inside. And I put the alien version of me in front of the RV. T-shirt contest. For the t-shirt contest for the New Tech Academy, I used Flash to make these 2 designs. Lesson 2, I used the camera raw tool to white balance the photo and the basic slider tools to correct the colors. Then I used several pair tools to correct blemishes. Photoshop Lesson 3, I used a great many selection tools to move items on this plate. I also used the invert tool and the alt copy function. Yearbook contest, I used the Photoshop in 5 layers as well as some filters. Blank tools to create this image for the yearbook. Spooky animation. I used multiple layers and scenes to create this short spooky animation. Photoshop Lesson 4. I used many layers, effects, and sizing tools to create this card. Photoshop Lesson 5A. I learned about Camera Raw and the basic sliders. I exported these images all together after synchronizing them. Photoshop Lesson 5B. We enhanced this image with optical correction tools including the dodge, desponge, spot healing, and healing brushes. We also used filters and adjustment layers. Photoshop Lesson 5C. I learned to use the red eye tool and the shadows/highlights tools. For this project, I also used the reduce noise tool and adjusted her levels. Photoshop Lesson 5D. I learned to use the lens correction tool and used the levels tool to improve this image of a Greek temple. Photoshop Lesson 5E. I learned to use auto align and auto blend, and then I used the lasso tool to copy and paste the fence mark. Then I resized it with Ctrl T. Photoshop Warrior. I used masks and many layers to create this warrior picture. Photoshop Lesson 6. I learned to use masks for hair and channels for fancy selections, to edit with levels and hue saturation. Photoshop Lesson 7. I used a clipping mask for the texture on the board. I put text on the path to make it look curved. I also used the character box to control the size and other specifics of my text. Gang sketch. I drew this picture with a pen and scanned it into my computer. Then I used Flash many layers to add color and details. Lesson 8. I used pens to make paths. I converted a path to a selection. I saved paths. I drew custom shape and I imported smart objects from Adobe Illustrator. Magix Music Studio. I created a second project for this class in Magix. Photoshop Lesson 9. I used star-shaped brushes, multiple filters from the filter gallery, and smart layers to create this awesome postcard. I used all the postcard making skills I learned from the last project to create this postcard for Austin.